Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I'm Fiona, and I am the Community Growth Coordinator at Teacher Horizons, and I'm here with my colleague Kavi, who is the Director of Community Growth at Teacher Horizons. And we're really excited to be presenting this webinar today alongside MSB. So I'm just making sure that we've got everybody in. We still have a few more people coming in to join us, so it might just take a few minutes, which is absolutely fine. Just to get us started, we just wanted to go through a few sort of guidelines for this webinar. We would really appreciate it if everyone could have their videos on. We do want this to be an interactive session, and it would be really good to get to know you a little bit more. We'll also have time for questions and breakout rooms so that we'll really get to engage with one another. And please just make sure that you keep your microphones muted. Of course, when we're in breakout rooms, you will have the opportunity to unmute yourselves and chat to others. But just while we are presenting, we'd really appreciate it if everyone just stays on mute. While we let everyone in, just these last few minutes, we have a question on here, which we would really love if you could start to have a little think about and maybe share some of your thoughts in the chat. So the question is, what does inclusive leadership mean to you in one sentence? So of course, today's webinar by MSB is all about co-creating an inclusive coach-like learning philosophy. And we just really want to kind of get an idea of your thoughts and see what you'd want to expect from this webinar. So if you could share maybe just a few thoughts in the chat box about inclusive leadership and what it means to you, that would be great, and we can go from there. But again, we're just letting in a few more people into the chat. And please, just another reminder to make sure you keep your microphones muted if possible. Lily,
This one requires, I was going to say this one requires some thought, doesn't it?
Yes, it's so far we have belonging and equity, which are really good keywords. I'm sure we will touch up on these. Christian has said collective versus executive decision-making process. Wonderful, really good. Some great ideas to start us off with. And I'm sure Matt, who will be taking over in a moment, can use some of these key points. Right, we'll just wait. Let's have one more minute while we have a few more participants coming in. So we have being open to everyone and treating everyone fairly, embedding this approach as a part of organizational culture. Wonderful, really good answers. Oh gosh, we have quite a lot coming in through all of a sudden. Inclusive leadership is about being a leader who makes everyone feel respected, valued, and heard. Of course, really important points here. It means working with your whole team, appreciating their differences, and giving everyone a fair chance to succeed. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Ajay, for writing that one. And then lastly, we have providing a safe space for growth, walk the talk, unlearning biases while approaching communication and collaboration, and to lead by taking into account all variables that can influence this guidance. So lots of really amazing ideas to get us started. I know we have a participant that's struggling to hear at the moment. There's no sound. Please, if you have any issues, try leaving the webinar and come back and see if that makes a difference for you at all. So just to go ahead and get us started, I will now pass on to the MSB team and let them lead the rest of the webinar. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much. Well, yeah, thanks for having us, and a big thanks to Fiona and Cabby for setting this up and leading us in really nicely. So I'm Matt Hall. I'm director, and longer ago than I can remember, founded MSB, and we provide coaching and help schools develop coaching cultures, which I'll expand on a little bit. But I'm also delighted to be joined by Catherine, who's going to introduce herself.
Hi. Yes, I'm Catherine. I'm based in Singapore, but I have 25 years plus of experience working in schools. I was a primary school teacher, then deputy head for many years, head teacher in London, and have been international now for 6 years. I was working in a school here in Singapore, but now I am a coach and a facilitator and a sort of outreach relationship lead for Southeast Asia and China. So I have the best job on the planet. I get to travel around meet people, make friends with people, and tell them about what we do. So I'm delighted to be here today.
Thank you. So we're gonna talk you through this topic and kind of 40 to 50 minutes in a webinar, as you know, as experienced people in the schools, is not enough time to do it justice. But we're just going to explore some elements of it that we see in the work that we do with schools. And at MSB, we're really focused on inclusion. We're not an inclusion company. We don't do inclusion consultancy or DIJ consultancy. There's some really good companies out there that do that. We really focus on coaching leaders and on teaching people how to develop coaching cultures, as well as teaching people to coach. And we take people all the way through to being fully qualified coaches. But Catherine and I kind of became slightly addicted, manic, obsessed, I don't know what the right word is with coaching, several years ago. And we see it as a catalyst to developing inclusive cultures. It's not the only way you would do it. There's lots of other things in schools that have huge value. We don't say coaching is a silver bullet. But what coaching really does allow is for people to explore how they are with each other and how they are with themselves. So we are really focused on our being and how we behave primarily. And we do this with an expectation that the schools that we work with and the individuals we work with should expect extraordinary from us. And that's not a standard. That's not above. It's not exceptional. But our commitment to expecting extraordinary from the people that we work with and from our own team is an inclusive commitment, because within extraordinary, everyone belongs. We put our arms deliberately around people that fall outside the ordinary. So again, you will see, even though, as I say, we are not inclusive or an inclusion consultancy, inclusion is at the heart of the work that we do at MSB through coaching. And it's a really strong pillar in the way in which we behave with each other and with our clients. And I'm drawn to this phrase, which comes up so often in the work that we do, that leadership is not a solo act and that inclusion has to be co-created. But there's an irony here, because the focus today is going to be on you individually. Because whilst leadership is not a solo act and inclusion has to be co-created, it has to start with you. If your ambition is to lead inclusion in your organization, it has to be about your relationship with yourself and your leadership first. And one of the pitfalls, which is probably too strong a word, that we often see in this work is people think, right, I need to go off and I need to lead. I need to take others with me. I need to lead this inclusion initiative, or I need to create a culture that's inclusive. And it's about outward looking. But the work we do in coaching, whether people like it or not, always starts with self. And we talk about making sure your inner horizon, your inner landscape is aligned and feeling inclusive before you start thinking about the outer landscape. So, for example, if there's something internally that doesn't feel included in your own makeup, it's very hard to lead inclusion. There's something about yourself in your internal landscape that you are not accepting or you're excluding. Very difficult to lead inclusion. So that's the focus. I said we were just going to touch on a little bit. That's what we're going to explore. Catherine and I are going to explore with you today. What is your own relationship with inclusion, and where does it start within your own landscape? And then there is a myriad of other practical ways in which that might apply to your school. But if you don't start with self, you won't be able to lead in a way that's aligned. So this is what we're going to do if we have time. And I'm conscious I'm already waffling and way out of time already. So I'm going to speed up and get to the point. So we've got 6 principles that underpin the work that we do, whether we're coaching an individual, and we coach about 400 school leaders worldwide, or whether we're working with a school to develop a coaching culture. And I think these are a really nice way into thinking about inclusion in a school and the leadership of it. So Catherine's going to take us through the first 3. And you're on mute, Catherine.
I thought I pressed it. Small is good, small is all. So this speaks to, we encourage people when they work with us to make their own meaning from this. And so there is no sort of wrong way of interpreting this. And we'd encourage you to think about this. A lot of what we do is drawn from nature. And so we think about the smallest steps and paying attention to the smallest details. So some of this speaks to marginal gains, that idea that if you want to make a big change, you start by making very small steps, and those small steps accumulate and add together to build something bigger. It's also the same sort of thing is about, people say look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves. It's the same sort of thing. But it's more than that. It's also when we are coaching, we're looking for the smallest of things and paying attention to the smallest of things in our clients. And we do this by being present in conversations, which is something that anybody can practice, and paying attention to the smallest thing, words that are being used, or the smallest eyebrow raise, or the hint of something. Because sometimes in paying attention to those small details, it reveals something much, much bigger. In the work that we do in our training, we celebrate the smallest of steps as well, because steps towards self-awareness or steps towards new learning, everything there is celebrated. So just really thinking about that, small and often. Anything you want to add to that, Matt?
No, keep going.
Okay, I'll go on to the next then. So our next slide is see the people, trust the people. I love this. I mean, the word trust is huge. And there are two parts to this, really. The first bit is about really seeing the people, really understanding somebody else, which means taking time to set yourself to one side and focus entirely on somebody else, to notice what they're saying, what they're not saying, where are the pauses, what's the body language saying. We do this as coaches, but we do this, so it becomes this base on everything that we do. Really understanding people, and part of seeing people then is not just about in conversation, but then understanding them, making sure that we understand what drives them, what are their values that underpin what they do, what irritates them, what frustrates them, and how to support them. So it's about really knowing people. And once we really know someone and we know what drives them, we know where their strengths are, where their areas for growth are, then you can start to trust people as well. And this really comes into everything that we do. It's about trusting positive intention and having positive assumptions about other people. Nobody deliberately goes out to be a bad guy. I honestly believe that. So it's about positive assumptions about other people, and understanding just if they've behaved in a particular way, why. So it also comes into trusting people to take away what they need from sessions, and we trust you here that you'll take what you need from a session, and trust that people will act on it. That's it. And the third value that I'm going to talk about is never a failure, always a lesson, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with this. It's a great concept. And I was going to read a quote as well, because I was looking at this. And obviously we talk about people like James Dyson and how he had so many failures before he ended up succeeding. One of my favorite quotes is from Michael Jordan, who talks about, he said, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 25 times I've been trusted to take the game winning shot and I've missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. So it's thinking about celebrating successes, but also celebrating learning from when we feel things have gone slightly wrong. Failure is such a strong word. And it's really interesting when we share, I don't think I've told you this, Matt, but when we share these principles with our clients, there's been a couple of times when people have said, yeah, I don't agree with that. Let's be honest, sometimes you do just fail. And I really have to push back on it, because I wonder what it's like to work for that person. And I'm grateful that I don't. Matt, over to you with the next slide.
Yeah, so just a quick recap, and I'll introduce the other three. So because I'm going to ask you to reflect on these in a minute, the people who are joining us. Small is all, small is good. And again, we're thinking really about what does that mean to me? How might I exhibit that in how I lead? Do I really see the people I work with? Do I really see them as humans? Do I start with relationship? Do I start with being? How am I being with those people? And do I genuinely trust them? Because if you don't, they'll sense it. And yeah, to what extent am I being kind to myself in my leadership? To what extent do I accept that my mistakes are lessons rather than being hard? And am I being inclusive when I think about myself, my relationship with self? Because our fourth principle, which underpins all of our approach to coaching and inclusive schools, is that what you pay attention to grows. And I always think of the lovely, the fern that unfurls in the light, but also the sunflower that turns to the sun. Um, if we pay attention to the bits that are negative or maybe less positive, they'll grow. And if we pay attention to things that we're really good at and our strengths, they'll also grow. And again, someone thinking in an inclusive way about their leadership will really learn to focus on the bits that they want to grow. And I think again, this is external, but again, I'm encouraging you to think about your internal landscape. Is there something that you're not happy about that you really focus on and you're really harsh on yourself on? To what extent are you giving yourself space in your leadership? Another key principle is change is constant, be like water. And again, I think we work in you know we all know we are working within a school system that was predominantly the product of industrialization, right? We work in rigid, fixed, bureaucratic systems, and that's a huge generalization. And I've been in dozens of schools that aren't like that. But the predominant model of Western education is was born when we were industrializing, when we were mechanizing the world. And yet, because you're spending your time with colleagues and in classrooms with children, that we humans are fluid and change and evolve. So again, a leader who's taking a coaching approach can become more inclusive if they can accept that change is the constant that we deal with. And I know that schools are full of change all the time, but often the tensions we see in schools is when there's resistance to change, there's a holding on. And actually, a school that has a coaching culture which feels inclusive, there's a sense of flow. There's a sense that we let things go, that we'll move and we'll adjust, and that we'll go where we need to go. And again, let's not mix this up. Change happens in a container. Water doesn't go everywhere. Water needs a channel. Water's robust. Water can erode rocks, as we know. So this isn't a case of just letting anything happen. But it's a sense of I know where my boundaries are and I'm willing to flow within them. I'm not going to get fixed on a particular point. And then our last one is less prep, more presence. And again, this phrase that I think, when I see leaders who have done the work on themselves to be really inclusive in their thinking, they've got this wonderful ability, and you'll know them. You'll have worked with them. They've wonderful ability to be where their feet are. And you really notice the opposite, right? You really notice the leader who's not where their feet are. You notice the leader who, when you're talking to them, is already thinking about the next thing or what's coming up or what's at the end of the day. And again, really easy to get pulled into that pattern when you work in a really sequential day where, your time is organized for you and you may be with a colleague at 9 o'clock, but you're really worrying about the meeting you're having at 2 o'clock with a parent. But a leader who will exhibit a sense of inclusion is really good at just being where they are and being present with the person in front of them. And we can get in some school cultures a bit addicted to prep. Prep is easier. I'm going to go away and do this. I'm going to go away and prepare for this. I'm going to go away and hide in my office because that's easier. It's really hard to be present because if we can be present, then we can be seen, and if we can be seen, then we're vulnerable because people see all of us. So it takes real courage to be present throughout your school day and with your staff and your kids. Caveat, it doesn't say no prep. Sometimes people say, try and teach physics to year 13, Matt, with no prep. You need to prepare, do not get me wrong. But don't get hijacked by prep. if you're going into a difficult meeting with someone, for example. Okay, so there's just a moment. I'm just going to give you just a moment. I'm going to pause and just not speak for about 30 seconds, just for you to do some reflection. Which ones resonated, which ones didn't, and sound is a big distractor. So I'm just going to go back through them and just make a couple of notes or just take a moment to think. We're going to expand out now slightly. We've started thinking about you as an individual, but we're now just going to explore a little bit about what this might look like in a team. How this may or may not show up in a team if we think about the team that you lead, the team that you're in. But again, we're not taking our eyes off the individual in this. And we're going to offer you another couple of perspectives on how leaders can lead inclusively if they're paying attention to themselves. So teams that are really good at this acknowledge where they are. They've got a really astute sense of where they are as a team, what's working, what's not working. They're really skilled at noticing and listening to each other. And I always think listening is it's so weird to think of listening as a skill, but it's when we teach people to coach, it's probably the most important one. Teacher training is really good, and teachers are brilliant at listening. They've got a really good predisposition to it, but there's kind of really going further and listening to your colleagues and your kids is a real route to a successful team. Being uncomfortable with not knowing and being able to walk with a question as a team is a really powerful act of an inclusive team. A courageous and inclusive team will be able to say, we don't know yet. Let's just walk with that question rather than rushing to an answer. And then we're just going to explore these couple of others. So are you as a leader operating above or below the line, or are you as a team operating above or below the line? And what might be 4 ways of leading when we think of inclusion? And again, we're going to take a couple more pause points after each of you to think about it, and then so you know what's coming. And then before the end of the session, we're going to put you in a breakout room just to have a chat and kind of kick these concepts around and allow you to make sense of them. We've thought about breakouts throughout, but I think we'd end up here for 4 hours. So forgive me for pushing on. Catherine, you were going to explain this.
Yeah, and this comes from Jim Detmer's work, but it's something that we talk a lot about in MSB. It's about knowing where you are. If you think about the line as being the content in different situations, and the context is, do you feel like whatever this is being done to you or is being done by you, for you? So when we're below the line, we're responsive, we're reactive, we're defensive, we're closed, we are looking to be right. And it's very normal to be like this. All of us are above and below the line at different times, responding to different situations throughout the day. Being above the line means being curious, being open, noticing and wanting to learn more about it, wanting to grow, being awake, forgiving yourself for or just understanding the way that you're responding to it. Whilst below is fear-based, above really comes from spaciousness and growth and positivity. So in order to be a great leader, whether you are leading your class, yourself, your meeting, your team, it's about acknowledging where you are And there are times when we might be slightly below the line. We'll notice that. Sometimes we can be really deeply below the line, but rather than stay there, it's about learning to notice where we are and knowing how to get ourselves back up to above the line. And as I say this, I'm hoping you'll also think about some of your colleagues and you'll think, yeah, I know when they're above the line and I know when they're below the line. It's actually quite obvious, isn't it? But when you think about where you are in different situations, there's some parents you might meet and you think, I know every time I go into that meeting, I'm going in, I'm defensive, I'm trying to show that I'm right, I'm sort of worried about the meeting beforehand. But actually, it takes that mind shift to think, rather than let me go into this meeting and let me be curious, be open, let me apply all of those MSB principles that we've just been talking about. And it's that real gear shift which makes you curious, which makes you open, and it will impact the way that you come across. Guarantee it'll be a much more positive outcome for everybody if you can manage to bring yourself up above the line.
One of our observations is when leaders or teams are below the line, there's not much space for anyone else. So if you're in defense mode, if you're in I need to prove I'm right mode, if you're in close mode, it's really hard to be inclusive. There's no space there because and again, there's no judgment here. This is a natural response, and what's going, your limbic system is working, isn't it? We're shutting down, or we're running away, or we're freezing. But when we're doing those things, it's really hard to look above the line and see who else is here and who else matters. Because when we're below the line, we're in defense mode. We can't think of others. We can't include others. We're in defense mode. So individuals and teams that have the ability just to slow and pause and explore and say, what's going on here? Where are we? What's the truth? Let's be curious rather than critical. Are far more inclusive in their culture. And leaders who are able to do that, far more inclusive. So recognizing where you are and then making moves to be above, really powerful way. And it's just a conceptual shift from the unconscious to the conscious. So again, just to take a minute to pause, think about this morning. I can think about this morning. My 12-year-old was going to miss the bus for school. I went way below the line in the way in which I tried to encourage her to speed up because it was about me and me looking bad because she would be late, and the implications for me, I could have come way above the line in that conversation. I didn't. So this is a entirely natural human response. But if we can build in time to pause and move above the line, we can lead far more inclusively. So yeah, just take a moment, think about maybe something that's happened today or this week. We think, actually, I probably was operating from a place of fear or judgment or threat.
Matt, someone's asked in chat, would you like us to share here?
I'm very happy for you to share. Just because of time, I'm not going to have time to go through responses because I just want to introduce you to the third. But when you get into breakout rooms, that's when I'd really like you to share these reflections. Thanks for asking. Okay, so just again, we're dipping our toes in the short amount of time that we've got, and what we're always doing at MSB is saying, there's a whole kind of canon of thinking, theory, research, approaches, ways of being that live in the coaching world. And obviously, the coaching world is a discipline that's broader than education. At MSB, we're just magpies, and what we do is we say, what's the best of the coaching world, and what does this mean for schools? So all Catherine and I are doing at the moment is metaphorically bringing little bits of gold back that we've pinched from elsewhere and putting them into the nest that is the school system. And one of those bits of gold is 4 ways of leading. And again, this is just a really nice conceptual way of thinking about how am I leading at the moment. And you'll see there's a direct relationship with thinking above or below the line. It's another way of of thinking about that. So when I'm leading, am I coming from a place of things happened to me? So nothing is in my control. Everything is happening as a result of external circumstances. I need to react to them and I will respond based on what happens to me. Or might I be working in a way that is by me? Everything here is done by me. If we're going to be an inclusive school, it's up to me. I need to drive it. I need to lead it. This is my job. I'm paid to do it. It's my own ambition, my own willpower that gets stuff done. Or as we start to come up to the line and maybe go over it, can I conceptualize my leadership and the work that I do as things happening through me? So I'm clear about my purpose. I'm able to use that purpose to guide others. I can outline a vision. I can work out who I need to collaborate with, and there's a sense of flow. There's a sense of ease in the work because we're really clear about why we're doing it and where we're going. And I'm a vehicle to that work. I'm not the creator of it. I'm not subject to it, but I'm a vehicle. And then the highest form, if there is a hierarchy here, we try to avoid that, but you can see there's a bit of an evolution from top left to bottom right, is thinking of leadership as me. So it's my presence. There's no separation between me and where I am. I'm embodied in the work. I'm immersed in the work. And there's a sense of oneness. It's not that inclusion's this thing over here that I have to do and have to make it happen. We're going to have a policy and it's going to happen. It's going to start on Monday. But I'm going to allow it to be me. I'm going to model inclusion. I'm going to allow all of the bits of me to exist in the way in which I operate. There's no separation between the school and me. There's no separation between this thing and me. It is as me. So from to me, leaders that come above the line move from to me, I've been given this job and I've got to do it. And it's not fair because I've not been given enough time. No one understands. As me. I am inclusion. I am inclusive. I accept all parts externally and internally. So again, it's a really subtle reframe. We're back to small is all, small is good. Really tiny shift from to me through to as me. But the difference in terms of your leadership can be really profound. And again, small is all, small is good. Maybe you're at to me and it would be healthy to move to by me. Maybe you're at by me and moving to through me is good. We don't have to go all the way. It's not about jumping from one to the other. And it might be in different contexts. As me is much easier than by me. But again, I'll leave them here. Let's just take a pause point. When do you notice each mode? What's different each time? Which one resonates with you? Or maybe you work for someone where you see this modeled. And again, I'll just leave them there for you to consider. How are we doing for time? Okay. Okay. So what we're really talking about in here is from I to we. These are all roots from moving from I leadership to we leadership. And if nothing else, I often think it's quite a lot of concepts we've thrown at you. If nothing else, leave with that. Or I quite like that as a little kind of aid memoir when I think about leading MSB. But I'm gonna skip forward to breakouts. I think it's time for you to have a chat. So let's go for 8 minutes if we can. Kavi, I think you're the breakout man.
Yes.
I've kind of asked the question, so what? But the floor is yours. I would suggest you go and introduce yourself to the friends in your breakout room, and just start to think about applications. So which of these concepts resonates? Maybe which ones you think they're talking nonsense. It's all good. But what might it mean for your leadership and your context?
very quickly that I was in some rooms and the conversations and discussions were incredible. Everyone was so engaged, and so I'm hoping, and I think what I saw was that people were able to get something out of that, connecting and discussing and sharing perspectives, which was great to see.
I was just speaking to Catherine before, and it would be really great if everyone could share sort of their key takeaway from the chats that they had in the breakout rooms. Or if you could just share some of the topics you discussed or some of the things that you were reflecting on, just so that we can kind of see if it was different across the different breakout rooms and see, what kind of discussions you were having in case anybody
Yeah,
wants to
just put something in the chat so that we can see it. Would be lovely, rather than people talking. Matt, you're on mute. We're
Yeah,
taking it in
but
turns.
this is also, we are coming towards the end of our time. So likewise, if you've got a question or there's something that you want us to expand on a bit further, really interesting to see what was happening in the breakouts. But also very free to take a question if you want to unmute or if you want to put it in the chat. Then we've got about 5 minutes now just to take any questions or reflections.
We've got a few participants sharing what they discussed in the breakout room. So, for example, Marcus said that they were discussing the importance of being at a school which aligns with your values. And Milo said that they were talking about leading by example and how it starts with us. Thank you, Julie, who said we discussed the 4 ways of leading and how they adapt according to the situation. So we've got lots of really good points coming through. I don't know if you want to expand on any of these, Matt, or we can also just open it up so that you can ask Catherine and Matt some questions as well.
Yeah, both. I think that point by Julie is a really important one, and one of the key words that maybe we didn't include in there is context. Always start with context. And again, they're not deliberately not hierarchical. There might be times, as you know, in schools where you need to lead by doing stuff and getting stuff moving really quickly. We do just tend to get to default to us or by us rather than through us or as us. But yeah, I have to discipline myself not to see them as a hierarchy.
Amazing. We also have
Yeah,
Eileen, who's just shared and said showing vulnerability and not knowing all the answers helps us connect with people that might be experiencing the same so we can work together in finding the answers. Sorry, we've got quite a few coming through now, so I'm just trying to get
go
to
ahead.
through me, to me, this means I set, protect, resource, protect the circumstances for others to make courageous choices. So that's a really good point from Tanya as well. Thank you. And understand before you expect to be understood.
Lovely.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing what you were discussing and reflecting on. Please feel free to ask any questions if there are any points that you'd like to find out more, or you just want to pick Matt's brain maybe and see what he has to say on a certain topic. You're more than welcome.
I was just going to add, if you don't want to hear, sorry, my slides are all over the place. Then where are we? Somewhere on here, I've got our email addresses and I can't find them now. There we go. Then feel free to ping one of us or both of us a message if you want to get in touch or continue the discussion. And yes, this is being
or find us
find
us on LinkedIn.
And us, yeah,
Really
happy to carry on the conversation.
So just to add, I know a few people have been asking, we will be sending a follow-up email to everyone who registered. So we will send you the link to the recording in case you do want to watch it again or in case you missed anything. And in that email, we will also include Matt and Catherine's email address and their LinkedIn profiles in case anybody would like to connect.
We also do have a feedback form. So if there's nothing else, Matt and Catherine, I would share. Yeah, there it is. Okay, great. So I can share the link, and we can of course share the feedback with you as well. But we love to hear from our community how the session was for them. How the takeaways. It's just 1 minute, so it's in the chat. You can have a look. It would be great if you could just fill it before we all say goodbye. And yeah, and thank you for filling that up.
We do have, Bev has asked if you are available to work with school leadership teams directly. this is something.
Yeah, so let me jump back and the brief always from Teacher Horizons is you're not doing a sales pitch, MSB. So but I will answer the question. We do two things. We help people make space for themselves. So we provide executive coaching. We will coach you as individuals, but we also coach teams. So we run programs where we'll say to a leadership team or to a middle leadership team or a school team, how do you want to do this? Like, how do we do this well together? And so often we find that's a bit that's missing. Like everyone throws themselves into a new school year, but they never have the how do we do this? What happens when we fall out? What happens when things go wrong? What's the thing that really annoys you that I need to know? How do we celebrate together? So we coach individuals and we coach team, and then we also teach you to make space for others. So we teach you how to use coaching in schools. And if you ping either Catherine or I an email or go to makingstuffbetter.com, it's not difficult to find out. Very happy to have a chat about how we do that. Yeah, just get in touch. Great.
There's another question. Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Fiona.
Irene has just said, I did not quite understand the as me leadership. Would you mind maybe just touching up on this again?
Yeah, it's good. I find it hard to understand as well. But cognitively, it's like a real. It's just it takes practice, and it's a way of not seeing yourself in separation to the work that you do. So inclusion, if you think about the topic we're talking about, but you could use it for anything. What if instead of inclusion being the thing of I'm in charge of, what if inclusion is me? What if I am inclusion? What if I were to operate as if I was inclusion? What would that feel and look like? So it's actually a way of when in this work comes from some work that Jim Detham has done for years. It's actually a way of shifting from head to heart. That's what's behind it. So if I think cognitively about inclusion, it takes me to policies and processes and practical and calendars, which are all valuable. But I think as me about inclusion, it drops me out of here and into here. And it allows me to start operating from a sense of I am inclusion, which again sounds a bit obscure. But if you just sit with that and just practice that, it really starts to make a difference about how you may approach it because you've got sometimes the word that comes up when it's as me is care. So I need to think about this carefully because this is me too, and I need to look after it as opposed to this is just something that I've got to do because I've been told.
If I can add on to that, Matt, I think it also moves from doing into being. So rather than thinking of yourself as doing a job and checking things off, it just becomes how you are. Yeah, intrinsically part of you.
Mm.
Amazing, thank you. And thank you so much for asking that question as well.
One of the thoughts that I have, could I share? May I share, please?
Please.
Okay, I'm a leader. I'm an IB workshop leader, and currently I'm the head of department. And I have to run a lot of PDs for the whole school. So one of the things that I do is I start with where I fail and how I fail, and how do I actually overcome. And that basically takes away all of those apprehensions, fears, and everything that's associated with taking a risk. So one of the things I have realized in my 20 plus years of association with schools is schools are about people and then about the policies. So it's about the people and it's about being there and going through that process together. So this is my team. These are the challenges that we have. So, that is where I come from. And this workshop has been just such a lovely reminder at this point in time where I wouldn't say I'm having challenges, but my life is calling me for that transformational leadership.
Mm.
Like this morning, I was talking about aligning the curriculum according to the subject guide. So there are teachers who do not understand this. So I said, enough of talking about the why and what. Let me think about how can I do this. So when it was not going anywhere, I said, let's take a moment to, do something different, and we'll come back to this conversation later. So There's no point basically insisting on your agenda. It's the collective approach. This is what we need. This is how we are moving forward. The how is so important. For a long time, I think people have focused only on the why and what, without taking into account how the hell are we going to do this. That's me.
Thank you. You're doing the next webinar, by the way. They've just
Oh, am I?
there it is.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Love
Well,
that. Yeah, I mean,
I mean, like, okay, is there a possibility that we are able to consider giving a certificate of attendance? That is like, that would be really, really amazing. I think so.
Well, we have one from Teacher Horizons for sure. I'm not sure
Okay.
about MSB, but we can talk to them as well.
Cool. That will
Yeah.
be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, really. Looking forward to the next seminar or webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the reflections. Yeah, it's such a valuable reminder. You know, we are nothing but without relationships and people. That is the business that we're in. And it is a fairly crazy time to be on planet Earth. I'm taken to a phrase that we use from time to time, which is if we're going to hold it together, we need to hold it together. That's what schools are, a place where people hold things together. So yeah, thank you for those reflections.